Yo, what is going on, guys? It is Jonathan back again with the weekly scuffle, and I'm here to talk about Canelo Alvarez's future and his next potential fights for the rest of this year. And starting this off, of course, we all want to see him with David Benavidez, but because of PBC's financial straits and everything involved with that whole deal and everything that went on with Showtime leaving and PBC not getting a budget from Amazon, it's really led to the downfall of a lot of PBC fighters and them moving on from the platform and from the company. And the same goes for Canelo Alvarez. And honestly, I think that Eddie Hearn kind of may have accidentally leaked what Canelo's plan might potentially be for this year, and that could potentially be him fighting three people. And of course, it's been highly rumored that Canelo will fight Mungia and Edgar Berlanga now that he's no longer with the PBC. And while out of both of those fights, the only one that truly intrigues me as of right now is Jaime Mungia, I just don't believe it's gonna happen next because Oscar De La Hoya, who is Mungia's promoter, even though they fight on the zone, he is a Golden Boy fighter, and I think Canelo knows this and his team knows this, so they're clearly gonna have to work through past relationships there to make that fight happen. And I think it's a little bit harder than it may seem. But you ask yourself, hey, what other fighters at 168 does DAZN potentially have to give Canelo? And there's two names in mind, and two names that I believe are the reason Canelo will go to DAZN and potentially fight two fights with Eddie, and then potentially do that last fight with Oscar, which would be Mungia in September. But the first fight I do expect to happen is May 4th against Edgar Berlanga. Granted, I think Berlanga needs a couple more developmental fights before he gets in there with Canelo, but it is what it is. That looks like the fight we're getting next. But a name that hasn't really been thrown out there yet, which I think will probably be the third fight, assuming, or the second fight, assuming Canelo does fight three times this year, would actually be Diego Pacheco. He gets out there around April, so he's going to be coming off probably a career best win in his next fight. And I think Canelo versus Diego Pacheco is a solid fight. I think it sells in Las Vegas. And, while most boxing purists may not like it, me included, I'd rather see Canelo fight David Benavidez. You know, Mungia is up there for sure. And, of course, Terrence Crawford, which also is a promotional free agent because of PBC. So maybe Eddie and the Zone could look to make that fight happen on their platform, which could be very interesting for them. But with that being said, I do think Eddie Hearn is kind of trying to angle both his fighters in, Edgar Berlanga and Diego Pacheco, to get this big time payday against Canelo Alvarez. And while, it may not look great for Canelo's career right now, Pacheco and Berlanga are both technically still relatively young and could potentially end up being really great fighters down the line, even with losing to Canelo. Maybe them getting the boost from fighting Canelo could launch them into other fights where they could end up winning and propelling their careers to the next level, which would not surprise me at all because, a loss doesn't define a fighter. If they're waiting to get in there with the big names, they could lose and potentially get better and boost their careers going forward, aka Canelo when he fought Floyd Mayweather. So it would be very interesting to see if these two guys do step in the ring with Canelo. Technically both undefeated young fighters, so that part looks good. Granted, hopefully we get the David Benavidez fight eventually. I think Jaime Munguia will for sure happen this year, but probably in September. And I wouldn't mind seeing Terrence Crawford next year or maybe this year if they could get that over the hump. But with that being said, we'll see how all this plays out and see you next time. Peace.